Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives. As we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner that says Start Here, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. The book's titled Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book provides a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships. Also a tool I can use to turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual tool itself. It's a simple PDF file. Download it, print it off, use it as often as you'd like. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows like this one where people have been stepped through the worksheet process and or given powerful testimonials about how the active use of that tool has improved the quality of their life and relationships. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app. It contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do that soon and often, and then give us a call at 563-999-3581. Call that number and press 1, and it will put a little question mark by your phone number, and I'll announce you by your area code, and we can have a discussion. We are also doing the Course in Miracles workbook lessons this year. Today is the 264th day of the year, and that means the lesson for today reads, I am surrounded by the love of the Creator. The commentary reads, Father, you stand before me, behind me, beside me, in the place I see myself and everywhere I go. You are in all the things I look upon, the sounds I hear, and every hand that reaches for my own. In you, time disappears, and place becomes a meaningless belief. For what surrounds your son and keeps him safe is love itself. There is no source but this, and nothing is that does not share its holiness, that stands beyond your one creation, or without the love which holds all things within itself. Father, your offspring is like yourself. We come to you in your own name today to be at peace within your everlasting love. My brothers and sisters, join with me in this today. This is salvation's prayer. We must not join in what will save, must we not join in what will save the earth and the world along with us? Pam Grout's Course in Miracles experiment book, Lesson 264, is titled Settle for More. She quotes Deepak Chopra as saying, while you're caught up in why he didn't return your call, galaxies all across the cosmic horizon are tumbling into the unknown faster than the speed of light. Pam writes, we humans are an awful lot like Dobby, the house elf in the Harry Potter books. Thankfully, we don't have the green tennis ball eyes or the long bat-like ears, but we do treat ourselves in much the same way. Like Dobby, we continually settle for less. We refuse to fully accept our good. The universe is trying like bloody hell to pour out blessings, and we're too busy composing snarky tweets that we don't even notice the universe pouring out these blessings. When Professor Dumbledore hired the heroic elf to work in the kitchen, He offered 10 galleons a week and weekends off, but Dobby wanted no part of it. He insisted on a single galleon and only one day off per month. When Dobby, who always referred to himself in the third person, explained his pay negotiations to Hermione, he said, "Dobby beat him down, miss. Dobby likes freedom, but he isn't wanting too much, miss." That's us. We never want too much, never seeing our own beauty, never recognizing that we have the power to create worlds. And like Dobby, who often inflicted injury upon himself, we punish ourselves for simply being who we are. We may not hit ourselves in the head or iron our hands as Dobby did, but we certainly iron our hair, hit ourselves physically every time we look in the mirror, and constantly try to, quote, improve, close quotes, our perfect selves. I prefer what British artist Ruby, etc., posted on Instagram. Quote, "The only problem with my body, question mark, my brain for assimilating the concept of problem areas, close quotes." So today I say to myself, to Dobby, and to every humanoid on the planet, you are a perfect angel, goddess, rock star, and I am so very, very proud of you. Come on down and scoop up your gifts. So that's our Course in Miracles workbook lesson and the Course in Miracles experiment commentary from Pam Grout for today. And as usual, we have about 50 minutes left to entertain your comments or questions, to remind people that we are on a Tuesday, which means that tonight we have a Mindshifter support group available, absolutely free. We have an upcoming Integrative Mental Health Summit, all the information about that being held the October 8th, 9th, and 10th, virtually on the internet. All the information about that is available at integrativementalhealthsummit.org. And the information for joining us in our Mindshifter support group tonight is available at, he writes, "You're never a victim. And considering yourself as one is never more than a thought and a belief. Even when you feel like a victim, you will discover that as soon as you bring yourself into the present moment, your thinking will stop, and very quickly that feeling will be gone. You will learn to set yourself free through the power of presence." He suggests that you can watch what happens when you believe something and notice how it makes you feel, whether that's feeling angry, afraid, loved, or safe. You don't have to automatically believe what you think, whether it's about yourself, your life, your illness, or anyone else, especially if it makes you unhappy or causes you to bring unhappiness to others. This is the core of the Byron Katie work, where she says, "I only suffer when I believe my negative thoughts." So deep truths are woven equally through all these great teachings. And when I'm reviewing these, I'm looking for how they're similar. I know that when someone creates a system or a technique, they have a level of investment in defining how different they are from other things. I had the occasion recently to read the book Brain Spotting, and one would think that this is a technique unlike anything that's ever been developed, and yet there are parts of it where he acknowledges that it's very, very similar to several other things. He's got a piece or two that he thinks nobody else has, And yet, if you look at it, just observe and be with it fully, and then the magic of transformation happens inside the person. That's, essentially what happens with Michael Ryce's worksheet and Ho'oponopono and Byron Katie's work and Diederik Wolzak's work and G.P. Walsh's inner reconciliation. Very, very much the same. The dynamic that induces the change is not the conscious logical mind thinking its way through to something. It's this higher awareness once we've opened up and let the memory come into awareness. Once we remove the energetic blocks to the full embrace of the memory, whether it's traumatic or otherwise. Once we do that and we stay present with it, when we stay tuned into it, the memory and all of its energies, healing happens, integration happens, resolution happens. And to one degree or another, each of these processes has a little bit of something that someone must do. They must at least hold the intention of being with the fullness of the memory and the experience. And once they do that, and don't try to do too much else with it, and just allow and notice what physical energy shifts, what mental emotional energy shifts happen, that's when what most of these people discover, that's when the body, the mind, the soul, the spirit, the energy system does its healing. And it is not directed by the conscious logical mind. It is not, you're never going to find a solution to your mental emotional issues in what David Bohm calls sustained incoherence, which is essentially applying the process of thought to try and unravel a problem that thought itself created. So, whether it's Richard Moss or Guy Finley or Diederik Wolzak or Dr. Michael Ryce, most of these very powerful, very effective teachers are guiding us to be willing to see and ask and be shown more than do, more than fix, more than think about or process it with an intellectual eye. Here's something from Richard Moss that's very similar to what I have in my bottom line observations, where I say, what happens to me and around me in my life is nowhere near as important as how I choose to interpret and respond to those events. Richard Moss writes, more than the suffering of actual mental or physical illness, more than dying and death itself, the suffering created by thoughts that divide us within ourselves or between each other creates the greatest source of human misery. Just think about that. The thoughts that divide us within ourselves or between each other creates the greatest source of human misery. We are used by our thinking because it consistently puts us into opposition within our lives. We rarely say yes to life as it is. Instead, we continually tell life how it should be. And this is exactly what Michael Singer talks about in his work, where his second book that I'm aware of is titled The Surrender Experiment, which essentially is surrendering to life and the opportunities that come up in life far more than resisting them. And he talks about, in an existential sense, in an ultimate sense, being willing to step back and be in the observer mode more and more in life as the energy of life moves through us and around us, and simply revel in it, simply feel it fully in allowance and acceptance. You suffer because of the thoughts you have about yourself and the situation, not because of who you really are or what the situation is. That's from Richard Moss. He has a point in the book where he talks about how presence can diminish pain. Specifically, physical pain varies moment by moment with your state of mind, or more precisely, with how present or not present you are. So does your vitality. When you're caught up in the thoughts that generate fearfulness or despair, physical pain can worsen and actually weaken you. The moment you relax into the present and your thinking becomes quieter, the pain signal may well decrease and your vitality increases. So, 563-999-3581. We've got 40 minutes left. We have time for comments, questions, suggested topics. How can we support you today? What's on your mind? He goes on to say, because there is no way to actually characterize who you really are as a human being, as an aware being, your ego has to find a way for you to believe in your own separateness. The ego can't be neutral. It can't see you or this very moment as it actually is. That would be pure awareness itself. So in one way or another, your ego has to make you stand out, has to make you special. Whether it makes you better or worse than somebody, it's the same thing. It does this in one of two ways, by telling you a story about yourself that makes you either more or less than you really are. And when the ego stories make you smaller, you call it a depressive specialness. He calls it a depressive specialness. And when that ego puffs you up with a sense of superiority, he calls that grandiose specialness. You might presume that being superior is a better or more desirable form of specialness, but in fact, the superiority cuts you off from intimacy with others, just as the negativity does, just as the depressive specialness does. Believing that you are inferior does the same thing as believing that you are superior. So no matter whether it puffs you up or shrinks you down, the ego's project of making you special isn't helping you become healthy and whole. The ego isn't a bad thing or even a thing at all. Guy Finley calls it a mechanical level of consciousness. It's just a process that runs. It's like the momentum of a ball rolling down the hill. Richard Moss says, it is just a constantly regenerating mental construct based on unconscious identification with stories you've been telling yourself in only slightly changed forms ever since your childhood. While everyone is unique, when I speak of how the ego makes you special, I'm referring to the emotional quality of your sense of separateness. So, the emotional quality of your sense of separateness, whether you feel inferior or superior, grandiose or depressed, either pole strongly influences how you view yourself and react to people and situations. Grandiosity tends toward anger and impatience. Depressiveness tends toward compliance and withdrawal. Hello, Ellen?
Hi, Dr. Tim. Yeah, I just, it's so interesting because I keep coming back. I mean, I found this in my journal yesterday. I was looking for something I had written about, and I came across an entry, I think it was a couple months ago, where I had written about everything being equal. And that I find, and I had forgotten about it, I kind of it served me really well for a little bit, and then I kind of got lost in the dream again, and then when I read about it again, in my own journal, but, you know, I kept getting this message from all these different teachers about everything being equal. And so what you just read from Richard Moss and saying, you know, it's the exact same thing. I mean, whether you feel superior or inferior, it has the exact same effect. And I just want to offer a little visual, because visuals always help me. I know, you know, everyone processes things a little differently, but for some people, having a visual helps. And what I had drawn in my journal was an equilateral upward-facing triangle. And at the apex, the point at the apex of the triangle, I wrote unity consciousness, and then the bottom line of the triangle that has the 2 points, I wrote duality consciousness, and then I put a fourth point right in the center of that bottom line, directly below the apex point. And I just actually picture myself standing in that triangle, my feet on that center point of that bottom line, recognizing that everything is equal, whether it's good, bad, right, wrong. I mean, none of those things actually exist. Everything is equal because everything on either side of that center point is illusion. So you can't have one illusion that is better or worse, more right, more wrong than another illusion. They're all illusions. And so I see myself just in perfect alignment with that top point. You know, my head is there in unity consciousness, where again, everything is equal because everything is God. So it's like either everything is God or everything is illusion. And what I find is as I'm just going through my day and I feel myself being pulled to one direction or the other on that bottom line, and then it's like I catch myself and I go, oh, that's just an appearance. Everything is equal. And I just realign myself in that center, and it just seems to be a process that works for me, to have that visualization where I just keep recentering myself and recognizing that whatever is on either side is equal. And it totally takes you out of a place of judgment. Because if everything is equal, there's nothing to judge.
Well, anything that would help you do that is useful, right? That's
yeah.
The whole point is, Richard Moss says, the purpose of this book is to give you a choice between being driven by your ego or being aware of its game plan. And what you're just talking there about is a visual aid to keep you aware of the game plan. The game plan has you choosing one illusion over another. That's the ego's game. Ego deals in illusion, not in actuality.
Right. And the other thing I see, too, is like from that top point of the triangle, I see a pendulum that swings back and forth. Now, this is time. It swings back and forth between the two other points. And it's like, it's that constant motion. And it's like if you would stop the pendulum, right, it's just going to hang straight down. And there again is that visual of just being in perfect alignment in the center. And yeah, that's, for some reason that helps me, and so I just thought I would offer it because it might help others who like to have some sort of a visual.
All right, lovely. Lovely. It is useful to have a variety of different ways to conceptualize this because we have been so thoroughly programmed into the ego patterns and belief system that we are not even aware. I mean, he just talked about that in one of the readings that I just did. We're not even aware of how thoroughly programmed our egoic thoughts are and how much we've identified with these things since childhood. So every little aid to my increased awareness, whether it's, away from actuality, that would be a help.
Right. It's so funny, too, because where I'm sitting right now, I'm like right in front of my own pendulum clock, which stopped back in February for no apparent reason, and it's just been perfectly still ever since. And it's like I didn't know I was going to talk about a pendulum a moment ago, and then it's like, oh, and here I'm sitting in front of my own pendulum clock that stopped, and it's like so weird because I just keep, every time I pass the clock and I recognize, oh, it's still stopped, it's like I just have this feeling of time out of time. It's time out of time. It's almost like, I almost feel like this time that we're in right now, it's the opportunity to be in time out of time or something. So it's just the energy right now.
Well, it's like that's just presence, right? You're talking about what Richard Moss is talking about. This whole book is in the present moment. There is no time. Right. In the present moment, there's no suffering. That's all there is. What's here now? Yeah. Remember the book Lizards Eat Butterflies, and he talks about how the vast majority, the actuality is that the vast majority of moments that any human being has been alive on the planet have been monotonously safe and boring. Monotonously safe. Right? The vast majority of my day, I'm not getting hit by a drunk driver. I'm not having the avalanche crash down on the cabin. I'm not being chased by a tiger. Even if I've had all of those things happen in my life, they're a tiny fraction of the time I've spent in existence. And most of the time, my heart is beating, my lungs are breathing, the food's digesting. For those of us who are lucky enough, their hair is growing. All these things are just happening automatically. And yet we're we've been trained, and we train ourselves to focus on how it isn't what we want, or what's missing, or what isn't, in our eyes, perfect. That whole egoic thing that Richard Moss is talking about here. So any little tip like your visual representation that can help you wake up and realize, wait a minute, in this moment, everything's okay. That's a really good thing to have, is those tools, those tips, those techniques to keep us grounded, loving kindness meditations, etc., mantras that resonate with our energy system. Those are wonderful things to have because they help us recognize what's true, what's actual in the moment.
Yeah, and the other part of that triangle visualization that I like so much is one of the things I wrote in my journal when I drew it was that if you try to get up to that point of unity conscious any other way than going to that center point and creating that perfect balance, you're just trying to climb a slippery slope. It's not going to happen. It can't happen any other way. But if you're right in the center in alignment with that top point, it's like a natural, I almost see it as like, here's another thing that came to me, it's like the stairway to heaven. It's just, there's a natural, you can go straight up, and there's no effort involved in it. There's no effort at all. It's the end of effort. It's just, you're just in alignment. And what else I was going to say that, yeah, the other thing for me, and it has been a struggle because I recognized years ago that if I think that there's something wrong with something and that I need to fix it, if I actually, and it could be anything, if I actually start the action of fixing it, now I've made that thing even more real. Like, I've made it like, I mean, it can't be an illusion if I start an action of trying to fix something, right? In my mind, it can't be an illusion. It's something real. And so that's one of the things that, I don't know if you have any advice for this, but that's one of the things that I have struggled with. And
what is one of the things?
Well, that if I see something, and for example, like for me, the last 20 years, it's been about like restoring this house that I bought. And, I've spent, oh my goodness, that's been my project. And when I first started to recognize that, wait a minute, if I think something needs to be fixed or corrected and I take an action towards that, I'm making it actually more real to myself, like the imperfection. And that, isn't it just a waste of effort and time to think that I need to go about fixing something? So that's it. I get caught in this trap, I think. So, like, I just stopped. I stopped everything, like working on the house for like a year, just so I could learn to relax, because I was always doing.
And when did you stop that for a year?
That was when I retired, which was...
Was that more than a year ago?
Yes.
Okay. So my question for you is, since that happened and you took that time out, have you been more productive in what you've wanted, getting things done that you wanted to get them done around the house, than you were before you were in it as a must-do, or it's broken, or I have to fix it?
I think I've just been more unwilling to sacrifice my time and energy to it. So in some cases, I just let things go. In other cases, I hire someone else to do it, rather than thinking, oh, I should do this myself. I don't know if I've certainly, my life's gotten better.
So the corollary question is, are you happier with your life since you've taken that year off and slowed down from the shoulds?
Oh, yes, definitely.
There's your litmus test, right? What's everybody going for? Abraham talks about this a lot. What is it you want when you say you have to have that relationship or that sports car or that new house? What is it you really want? You want the feeling you think you're going to have when you get it.
Right, the happiness. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the happiness, the contentment, the feeling, the synchronicity, the compassion, whatever it is, put whatever word you want on it, but you're going for a feeling.
Right.
And
you'll never permanently through...
Right, or the numbing out or the cessation of a pain.
Right.
Right. I've worked with some people who just, it doesn't matter what the substance is, they've come to call themselves addictive personalities. But many times when people say they have an addictive personality, when we start looking at it, their adverse childhood events, their traumas in their life are many and varied. And what they're doing with their, quote, addictive personality is they're looking for a way to fill a hole, heal a wound, numb out to a perceived deficit. So they're running from something, and they're using person, an activity, a food, a substance, a drug as the escape mechanism. And when they do the work of discovering the wound and healing or integrating, the knowledge of that experience and its impact on their belief system, they find time and time again that kind of addictive personality they had, if they're willing to do that kind of work. It's sometimes quite extensive work, but if they're willing to do that, they find time and time again that their addictive personality kind of melts away, and they get able to be, like Richard Moss is talking about, comfortable in the present moment. Comfortable, I used to say this phrase all the time. If you find somebody who's comfortable in their own skin, If you're comfortable in your skin, you're going to be comfortable being around them. If you're not comfortable in your own skin and they're comfortable in their skin, it's going to either draw you to them like a moth to flame, or you're going to be repelled, depending upon how strong your own core sense of self is. Right? Another way
Yep.
Dale Allen Hoffman talks about it is the light reveals things. The light of awareness, the light of consciousness, it reveals things. Well, if you have somebody who's deeply wounded and hiding that from themselves, and they come near somebody who's shining a bright light of consciousness and acceptance and allowance and compassion, it's going to stir up everything unlike love in that person, to borrow Michael Ryce's phrase for it, and they're going to get very uncomfortable. Dale Allen Hoffman talks about how the light you shine when you're loving and you're around somebody who's got lots of bushel baskets hiding their true essence as love from their awareness, it stirs up and shakes up those bushel baskets, and they become aware of the garbage in them, and they're going to blame you for it. They're going to think you're causing them all this discomfort, when really it's the light in you resonating the light in them. It's the truth of who you are resonating the truth of who they are. Yet, if the truth of who I am is hidden underneath all of these traumas and negative beliefs, I'm going to become aware of those traumas and negative beliefs as the truth in me gets activated. As Michael says in every worksheet, I choose love. With my true nature, I choose to be aware of it, directly, consciously aware of it. That's going to amplify its energy, and that's going to stir the love in everyone involved, everyone around me. Well, that's great if their love is right there near the surface and pure and easy, but if their love is covered in all kinds of garbage and bushel baskets, and that stuff starts bubbling up when I'm around and I'm being loving, they're going to think I'm causing them to feel all that pain and upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. And I think that's a lot of what happens, because when we're babies and we're little kids, I mean, we are love, we are that presence of love, and it stirs things up in the family.
Right, and our essence is that we are that presence of love, and yet we don't come in as a blank slate. Right, we've got the energies, positive and negative, that are on the mark, center, target, off target, etc. Off center and off the target together. We have all those energies that come in from the generations, and that's woven into and through who we are as this energetic being, as the experience of the creative energy expressing in form. So it's not just a simple everything is perfect until the world crushes it. It's if somebody's coming into being, they're coming in with their ancestral energies as part of their system. And if somebody comes in and they have just the absolute perfect parents, loving, they had an immaculate conception, which doesn't mean that the parents never physically had sex. It just means the parents were consciously aware of wanting to bring another entity into physical expression, and they wanted to do it through the loving, conscious extension of their own loving energy. That's another way to interpret the phrase immaculate conception from the ancient Aramaic. And if somebody does that and they raise that child as lovingly as they know how, that child is still going to have issues for his or herself to work out. It's the nature of our communal living, right, of our liturgy, our common work. To think differently is to say that, what is bad. So that means I'm going to label it. I'm going to move in, as you're talking about, to one side or the other of that pendulum and think this illusion is better or worse than that illusion.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have these tools and I know how to use them, and I can help that person focus on their true nature as I keep focusing on mine, and I actively work to use the tools to remove whatever's less than that awareness of that loving nature from my energy system, my life gets better. If I'm not willing to do that, it doesn't get better. It keeps spiraling downward.
Yep. Yeah, and I recognize that. I totally agree that we bring with us all of our own unresolved stuff from our past life experiences, if you believe in that, as well as this from our ancestors. And that's why we start having experiences as soon as a baby that don't feel good, because it's almost just like life is just trying to show you this is what you haven't dealt with yet. This is what you haven't dealt with yet. And, all the people around you and the circumstances and the situations are all like a mirror showing you this is what you haven't dealt with yet. And, I've just seen that more and more clearly with the things that happen in my life and what I have become aware of just through divine grace of what I experienced, some of the experiences I had in a past life. And it's like, I see, oh, wow, that's why this started happening to me as a child, because this happened to me before I came into this lifetime, and I never resolved that. So you see it's a continuation. And we just keep being given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to see it and to resolve it. And I think that's what life is, until it's not really life. And that's the thing, like, in that triangle, the two bottom points, life and death, like that, how we experience life until we get to that state of pure presence or unity consciousness, that's not really life. That's an illusion of life. And death is an illusion too. There's no end point. Yeah, we may drop the body, but, then we'll just come back in another body, and then that top point, that's divine life. That is life with the eternal life. You can't compare it. I don't think you could possibly compare it to what most people consider life.
Well, we can, and we do, but that's just the mind doing its comparison thing. Right. But in the actuality you're talking about, there's no separation, so there can't be comparison.
Right.
From here in Richard Moss's book, he says, one way you can know that you're being aware rather than hijacked. See, what he's trying to do is get people to understand that there is a whole different way to be awake and aware and present in the moment than what our culture has taught us to be thinking and doing, etc. So he says, one way you can know that you're being aware rather than hijacked by your ego is that you don't beat yourself up when you find that you're moving into either kind of specialness, either the grandiose specialness or the depressive specialness. You just recognize it, right? You don't beat yourself up over it. And you say, oh, okay, thank you for letting me know that you're active, right, and that you're off the mark here. That's
exactly what I've been experiencing as I use this little visualization, and I recognize, it's either an oh no or an oh yes, either direction, and I go, oh no, everything's equal, and I immediately just, boom, it's over, and I don't judge myself for judging, because that's what really that is. If you catch yourself judging and then you judge yourself for that, it's like, well, that's no good.
Yeah, but when you catch yourself judging, his recommendation is you say thank you.
Exactly.
Right? thank you, forgive me. It's almost like the Ho'oponopono stuff. Hey, I'm just going to recognize that I just became aware, so thank you for showing me that this story I was telling myself is causing my stress, and I don't have to keep doing that.
Mm-hmm. And if I see something that, like, I don't like the looks of it or whatever, and I just keep telling myself, it's just an appearance. Don't, like, we buy into the appearance of things all the time. And I just keep reminding myself, it's just an appearance. It's nothing. It's nothing. Everything's equal. Like, don't make it into something. You know, it's like, and yeah, there's such a relief in that, just the freedom in just
is this separate entity and a world unto itself, and that's how it defines itself, as being separate. But it, you know, this is my job as a higher awake being, is to educate my ego to the fact that it's not real the way it believes it's real. It is this part of my awareness that is there to serve me as I'm in the physical realm, and to be that, you know, as the Way of Mastery says, a very stupid servant, not the God of me, not the boss of me, not the master, but the servant. And it doesn't know that. But it's a very useful thing to be able to remember, you know, the route that I need to take to drive home tonight, and to, you know, how to tie my shoes. And that's, you know, Michael Ryce's talk about the biblical line that says, the eye is the lamp of the soul. If the light for you is darkness, how deep shall the darkness become? You know, some version of that. And he says, you know, if you look at the ancient Aramaic, it says your perceptual mind is just the tool, the light for you to navigate this earthly life. And in the ancient Aramaic, the darkness meant hostility or fear. So if there's hostility or fear in your mind, you're not going to see things clearly, and you're going to bump into things, or you're going to create mental emotional suffering for yourself. So your first job every time there's a negative emotional state is to stop. You know, you don't want to keep driving down the mountain road when it's dark at night. If your lights go out, you want to, lights are out, I better turn the lights back on before I keep driving. I better restore awareness of my true nature to my mind before I decide to speak or act. And that's the best way to navigate safely through this physical realm. But, you know, the perceptual mind is not, it's like David Bohm talks about, the process of thought has fundamental flaw that makes it, and then I'm willing to cancel it, then I watch what happens. I just ask to be shown whatever is needed for me to see, to heal and move forward, to integrate, to understand at a deeper level that it's all an inside job. And once I see that, there's nothing to be done. It is, or what is to be done just comes to me naturally. I don't need to ask an outside expert. I don't need to find a guru, because my own internal access to that higher wisdom is activated when I get enough of the garbage out of the way, when I'm willing to cancel that.
And this is normal for and Michael, I'm talking through my hat. I don't know what I'm saying.
Right.
But I said, you're in a detox state, so tell me what you've gone off of. He said, I've gone off pot, LSD, nicotine, and booze. And I said,
wow,
you're doing
quite
it
a load.
All at once? And he said, yeah, I just went cold turkey. And I said, are you safe? Should we get you to a hospital? You need a lot of support, and I'm 5 hours away, and I can't get there, you know. He said, maybe I should. And I said, well, Jacob, for the time being, just stay with me, and talk to me. Well, we talked and we talked and we talked and we talked well into the night. And I said, Jacob, how have you been sleeping? He said, terrible. I said, are you taking stuff for sleeping? Because I know you used to. Yes, I take trazodone, he said. So I said, well, you know that there are probably ways to clean up all of that stuff without drugs, but I think maybe tonight's the night to take one of those and go to bed and let yourself have a big rest. And he said, you think so? You think so? So I said, yes. And he said, oh, but my phone charger, it's almost dead. And I said, is there a store nearby?
In those terms. And to, you know, like as he says, come into right relationship with it.
Yeah, because the idea of trying to get rid of the ego or kill it is just a trap. You know, in The Way of Mastery, in one of the darshans, he talks about how you will never dismantle your ego, because the you that thinks you want to dismantle your ego is the ego.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can loosen the effects of ego on you by becoming aware, by understanding it, right? By being that gentle presence that you're talking about, and understanding it's there for a purpose, it's useful, it provides input, it helps me navigate the physical realm. There's all these different ways that you can talk about it, but it's this cultural and oftentimes reinforced by a family conditioning that says you are your ego, that's all you are the identification with it, etc. That's what creates the problems, not the ego.
Mm-hmm.
It's the misuse of, it's the misrepresentation of, it's the trying to make the ego be something it isn't, trying to make it be my whole identity. That's what creates the problems.
Yep. I agree.
On page 50 in Richard Moss's book, he says, the presence of awakening into greater awareness and presence is sometimes referred to as the death of the ego. In fact, many spiritual teachings talk about killing the ego. But the ego doesn't, and indeed shouldn't, die as you develop a high degree of presence. Rather, it ceases to rule your mind and determine your experience. Thereafter, it serves awareness by providing you a unique point of view, but no longer in a way that defines your identity and separates you or makes you special as either grandiose or depressive. It's just part of the process that's seen as a useful part of the process of navigating through life.
Yeah, and that unique point of view, I mean, it's also like, you know, the whole idea of diversity. I mean, if we were all exactly the same, that would be kind of boring, you know? I mean, it's wonderful that we're each unique. And that's one of the things that I think, you know, it sounds like that's what the ego provides. It's that...
Well, and there are those people spiritually who talk about, they conceptualize that we are here and having a physical experience because light, love, creation, God, source, whatever you want to call it, wanted to experience itself. And so it burst into, you know, billions of tiny lights shining back, reflecting upon itself, and that's how it has experience of itself. Otherwise, there is no self to have an experience of.
Right. Yeah, there's no experience at all.
There is just being. There is just presence.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There is no object, observer, and observed. There's no foreground and background. There's just awareness.
There's just, I would call it nothingness, and that has the potential of everythingness. But in that state, it's really nothingness. And I think that's what scares a lot of people.
Well, of course, it's what our conscious, logical mind can't make any sense of because it is everything and nothing. And
right.
our mind can't comprehend that. But one of the great philosophers and spiritual teachers, physicists, all of them come to the realization that one of the hallmarks of any deep truth is that its opposite is also true. Mm-hmm. And our conscious, logical, rational minds, and I put rational in quotes there, can't comprehend that until we run into it. And then we fight like heck trying to argue about it. But how can you be, how can the whole world fit on the head of a pin? And each person be as big as a universe? All of these things, sometimes people view them as koans that are just there, riddles to occupy the mind. But at another level, there's another deep truth or another deep teaching that says these things are both true. That every opposite contains its opposite and everything in between it. And it's just our mind that creates the concepts of opposites.
Right. And it's just like, how can you be in God and God be in you? I mean, I love these last couple lessons in A Course in Miracles, because and the one especially today, because I actually changed it a little bit, because it says I am surrounded by the love of God, and it's like, well, I'm not just surrounded, I'm in it. Like, it's in me. It's both. And I love that.
Yeah, just leave it there. Both and.
Yes.
All right. Well, you've taken us all the way through the end of the hour. Thanks for piping up here and having a discussion. And I will remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. Appreciate you.
Thank you,
and
good
let
sir.
whoever had let you know that the app wasn't printing. I've been the last couple mornings up early talking to India, and they have now got the Apple uploaded. It'll probably take it a day for it to come up as an update on people's phones, and the Android they'll have up before the day's out. So those should be fixed. And thank you for letting me know.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Have a great show.
Thanks.